Well, taking a few minutes here and just trying to understand the memory cards that I have from these Apple IIgs that I've got my hands on. And I did a little research on these. I don't know a lot about Apple IIgs. As an example, I know that a memory expansion board was available. It's pretty clear this is probably an original memory expansion board that hasn't been expanded. It's an Apple computer board, says so right on it. It is populated with the default set of memory, but none of the expansion slots had chips put in them. I also noticed there's a couple of jumpers over here that are not jumpered. Don't know what they're used for, but I'm starting to make some guesses on that. So I looked up these chips because I don't really know how much memory this represents. And what I found out is that these are 256K chips. Each chip has 1 bit, so 8 chips is going to give us 8 bits. So basically this is a 256 KB memory expansion card by default. I think the base memory of the Apple IIgs initially, ROM 0 or ROM 1, of which this board was in. I think it was a ROM 1. The system board came with 128 KB, so this added another 256 KB. Now here's another example of the same card. This was in let me think about this. This was in a ROM 0. This was in a WAS edition, ROM 0. And it's populated with all the additional memory in it. Same basic numbers on the RAM. The other thing that's interesting is that these jumpers are both jumpered now. So I assume that has something to do with the board being populated. Probably one jumper is when you populate these, and then the other jumper, you'd have to populate these. So I assume the way this worked was you could go from 256 to 512 by adding these 8. And then to make the next upgrade, you had to upgrade all of this to take it to 1 megabyte. That's normally the way those memory upgrades work. So probably the second jumper was once you had done that. But again, I'm just guessing there. Somewhat informed to guess. Now here's a totally different memory expansion card that I ran into. I think this came in another WAS that had a ROM 1 in it. This is a Harris Laboratories card. Copyright 1990, calls the GS Sauce card. Was made in the USA. Nice compact card. This uses, I think we call these DIMMs, right? An early type of DIMM. And at first I thought, well, these are probably just 256K again, but then I took a closer look and I can actually see as part of the chip number, there's a 1024. So I said, oh, they're probably megabyte chips. And I looked them up, and sure enough, these are 1 megabyte Texas Instrument chips. So there are 2 of these populated. Each DIMM is going to be 1 megabyte. So this is a 2 megabyte upgrade, and it's possible to add 2 more megabytes to it if you to obtain 2 more DIMMs that were compatible. Now this is 1990. I mean, there is a remote chance. I do have some DIMMs laying around upstairs. There is a remote chance that I have something that small. 1 megabyte, that's not much memory. Certainly by today's standards, but 20, 25 years ago, it might have been a little more common. Oh, it's interesting, there's also dip switches here. I'm sure this is the equivalent of the jumpers. So I assume if you put, 2 more DIMMs in here, you may have to do something with these dip switches. I'm sure that's something you might be able to look up. So that's what I learned here.